Dara and Jung Woo's secret beach wedding in the Philippines. A love story years in the making. Just days ago, the Korean entertainment industry was abuzz with anticipation. Sandara Park, widely known as Dara, the iconic K-pop princess, and beloved actor Jung Woo had announced their upcoming wedding, set to be a grand event in Seoul this August. Fans were counting down the days, imagining the luxurious gowns, the celebrity-filled guest list, and the spectacle that such a high-profile wedding would naturally bring. But everything changed overnight. On the evening of July 10th, whispers started surfacing in the Philippines about unusual activity at a private beachfront resort in El Nido, Palawan. Entire wings of the resort were cleared, staff rotations changed, and local vendors were asked to sign confidentiality agreements. By morning, the unthinkable was confirmed. Dara and Jung Woo had just tied the knot in a deeply intimate beach ceremony, far away from the glitz of Seoul. What happened? Why the sudden change of plans? As more details emerged, fans were left not just shocked, but deeply moved. According to close sources, the couple had originally intended to marry in Seoul on August 24th. Plans were in motion, invitations drafted, venues secured, and even their stylists had begun prepping designs. But then, a personal tragedy struck. Dara's eldest uncle, who had played a pivotal role in raising her during her years in the Philippines, was hospitalized after suffering a severe stroke. The prognosis was uncertain, and the doctors gave no guarantees. To Dara, her uncle wasn't just family, he was her foundation. He had stepped in during her formative years and acted as a father figure. The thought of him missing her wedding was unbearable. In a late-night call to Jung Woo, Dara reportedly said, "I need him to see me in my wedding dress. I need him to know I'm happy before it's too late." Without hesitation, Jung Woo responded, "Then we get married now." And just like that, their plans changed. The couple contacted a secluded resort in El Nido, a place Dara had visited years ago during a music video shoot. It held emotional significance and offered the privacy they needed. Within 24 hours, they discreetly flew to the Philippines accompanied only by immediate family and 2 lifelong friends each. There were no press releases, no stylists, no red carpet. The wedding was nothing like what fans had expected, but in its simplicity, it became something even more powerful. Dara wore a modest ivory dress she had purchased privately 2 years earlier, and Jung Woo wore a linen suit he picked up from a boutique in Manila. The ceremony took place at sunset. Dara walked barefoot down the sandy aisle, accompanied by her younger brother, tears in her eyes but smiling. Her uncle, fragile yet present, watched from the front row, oxygen tubes discreetly in place. When their eyes met, both broke into tears. As she reached the altar, Dara placed a trembling hand on Jung Woo's chest and whispered, "Thank you for doing this. For not asking questions. For saying yes before I even finished the sentence." The officiant, a local pastor called in last minute, gave them a moment to collect themselves. What followed was perhaps the most heartfelt exchange of vows fans will never see but will always feel. "We wanted a fairy tale," Dara said, addressing the small gathering. "But life reminded us that time doesn't wait. What matters is love, right now, with him, with all of you, especially the man who protected me when I didn't know I needed protecting." Jung Woo added, "I dreamed of marrying you under the stars in Seoul, but today, the sun is enough. Your hand in mine is enough. This moment is more than enough." His voice cracked, and for a brief moment, the breeze and the sound of the waves were the only things that moved. Dara turned toward him again. Her voice wavered but never broke. "You never tried to fix me. You waited. When I gave you silence, you stayed. When I pushed you away, you stood still with open arms. And now, after all these years, I'm ready. I'm sorry it took so long." Jung Woo mouthed, "Don't be." She continued, "I don't promise perfection. But I promise honesty. I promise to choose you even when I forget how to love myself. You were my home before I even believed in one." They said their vows not as celebrities, but as 2 people who had waited nearly 2 decades for the right moment. When asked the traditional vows, Dara softly replied, "I do." Jung Woo answered clearly, "I do." And then came the kiss. Gentle, real, and quietly aching, not for the cameras, but for each other. Tears fell freely among the small group of guests. Dara's mother sobbed openly. Jung Woo's sister embraced him. But it was Dara's uncle, weak but lucid, who murmured, "She's finally safe." As the celebration wound down and the sun dipped below the ocean, Dara knelt beside her uncle one last time. She held his hand tightly and whispered, "There's something I didn't tell you. I'm pregnant. 1 month." Her uncle blinked in surprise. Dara added, "I didn't want to overwhelm you before the wedding. But now, I wanted you to know, you're going to be a great-granduncle." His response was a tearful smile. He squeezed her hand and said, "You've given me everything. Now go live. Don't be afraid anymore." With that, Dara pressed her forehead to his and wept, not from grief but from joy. A joy so long delayed, it had no words. News of the wedding broke later that evening, spreading like wildfire across social media. Fans reacted with a mix of shock, admiration, and overwhelming emotion. What they thought would be a media event turned out to be the most deeply human moment of Dara and Jung Woo's lives. The world had expected a fairy tale. Instead, it got something better, a love story rooted in sacrifice, sincerity, and silent endurance. A story about two people who stopped waiting for the perfect moment and chose love instead. No glitz, no spotlight. Just love. Real, raw, and finally free. And in that freedom, a new chapter begins, as husband and wife, and soon, as parents. Because sometimes, happily ever after starts with a whispered "I do" under the setting sun, far from cameras, but closer than ever to the heart.